Hey guys, welcome back to another video with your host J-Man. So today we are going to be reviewing the first three books in the series Isle of the Lost, which is a Descendants novel, and the first two Descendants movies. So we got the first one here, it's Isle of the Lost, which is the first book. Now, Isle of the Lost is basically just about how the villains, all the Disney villains and everything, they have been rounded up and put on an island. And all the good guys are living on the other side on their own little thing called Oridon. It's like a prep school where there's all these kingdoms and all this stuff. And basically, all the villains were sent to the Isle. There's no magic there, there's none of that. There's magic in Oridon, but they don't really use it. And it's basically just about Mal, like Maleficent's daughter, the Evil Queen's daughter, all these people's kids, you know. Basically, it's like 27 pages, 27 chapters, I mean. It's 27 chapters. And as you can see, the front cover is like a poison apple. And the back cover is an apple tree with Maleficent's horns on it. And basically in the book, you hear a lot about Maleficent trying to get her scepter because it's on the Isle. You hear, like, basically it's really good actually. Like, you hear a lot about how Maleficent's daughter jumped Belle and Beast's son, even though they never met, but they were dreaming about each other like they were there. And Maleficent's daughter thought it was like a nightmare, and Belle and Beast's son thought it was like an awesome dream, and Mel, which is Maleficent's daughter, didn't want to leave the Isle, and she liked the Isle of the Lost where she's at, and she drinks, old coffee, and they eat old food that came from Oridon, and Maleficent's trying to get her to go find her scepter, which is on the Isle, because her bird came back, Diablo, Maleficent's bird had came back to life after a hole in the protected dome had got made by Cruella de Vil's son and the Evil Queen's daughter when they were playing with science, and they made a hole in the barrier, basically. And a little bit of magic came through, so Diablo came back alive. And you find out that the castle that Maleficent and her daughter are living at is not her real castle, that her real castle is somewhere else. Now, after you read this book and all the stuff that's in here, and how, how the Evil Queen's daughter, Cruella's son, Jafar's son, and Maleficent's daughter became friends and all that, you watch the movie, and it's just, the first movie leaves off where the first book left. Like, it starts off where the first book leaves off, honestly. And, like, it starts off, Ben, which is Belle and Beast's son, wanting to bring some kids from the Isle and all this stuff, and it's, like, really good. Like, the movie was amazing, the book was amazing. Like, if I had to rate the first book and the first movie, I'm gonna give that, like, 200, because it was really that good. I'm gonna give it a 200 from me, because it was just that good. Now, before, I didn't think about reading the book and watching the movie, because I honestly thought that it was like, because like Twilight, it was a book series, but it was also a movie, but they were different than the movie. The book was different than the movie. But this, the book leaves off, and then the movie starts where the book leaves off. So, that's the first book. Now we're going to review the second book and the third book, and then the second movie. Because after you read the first one, you have to read two more books to watch the second movie. So, let me review these other two. Let me start with the second one, which is Return to the Isle of the Lost. See? And it's a nice red color, and it's like the Evil Queen's mirror and stuff. So, basically in this book, honestly, this book kind of picks off where the movie left off. Picks up where the movie left off. The movie ended, and then the book right here, it picks up where the movie left off. Now, in this one, because in the movie they went to Ordon. The four villain kids, Cruella's son, Jafar's son, Evil Queen's daughter, and Maleficent's daughter, went to Ordon, which is the other side where all the good guys are, and they're learning to be good. And they, they end up fighting Maleficent. They defeat Maleficent and turn her into a lizard. Not to spoil the movie, but that's what happened basically. Well, in this book, basically they're in Ordon now. They're trying to be really good. They're trying to be good, and they all get letters basically saying that they need to go back to where they came from, go back to the Isle, and all this stuff is going on. Well, they go back to the Isle. They sneak off and they go back to the Isle. Now, Ben, which is Belle and Beast's son, is now with Maleficent's daughter, okay? And they run into him and they tell him what's going on. And he lets them take the royal limousine and all the stuff that, like, they need to go back to the Isle. They go back to the Isle and everything, like, they open they push the button to open the dome. They go back to the Isle. They went back to the Isle because of this thing called the Anti-Hero Club. They thought because there's pictures of them on the website with red X's on their face that it was against them. But when they get there, they find out, oh, it's people that want to be like us, but they disguised it to make it look like they hate us so the people on the Isle don't get suspicious. Basically, they didn't want them to know that they wanted to be good, so they made a fake name for it called the Anti-Hero Club and all this stuff. But basically, they wanted them to come back to congratulate them on defeating Maleficent and being good. And all this stuff is happening. And basically, they go back to the Isle and they find out that everybody's afraid of Mal, which is Maleficent's daughter still. Everybody ransacked her mom's house but left her room the way it was. So she went and grabbed all her sketchbooks, all her stuff, and she took it back with her when she left the Isle. Now, before they leave the Isle, they have to go down into these things called the catacombs, basically. And the catacombs, basically, is just like all the stuff that's underground, but they have to go find these talismans. And it's all of them. Jay, Carlos, Evie, and Mal. Mal's the daughter of Maleficent, Evie's daughter of the Evil Queen, Jay is the son of Jafar, and Carlos is the son of Cruella. So basically, they have to go find all these talismans, and the guy's telling them where to go, this professor guy who's on the Isle from Ordon, because they wanted them to learn something. They wanted them to learn some real science on the Isle, so he put one of the good guys there. Well, they went underground, and they all have to get their talisman. Evie has to get the apple. Jay has to get the golden snake eye staff. Carlos has to get the ring of envy. Mal has to get a dragon egg. And they all have to be destroyed. They have to be destroyed, honestly. And so basically, they go back to the Isle. They're under the thing, and they end up back in Ordon. And basically, during the book, there's been this purple dragon everywhere. Purple dragon, purple snake. There was a purple dragon in Camelot. There was a purple snake, in Cindersburg, which is Cinderella's land. So they're thinking, everybody in the Ordon saying, oh, is it Maleficent? Is it Maleficent? Is it Maleficent? Is it Maleficent? But in the end of the book, come to find out, it's not Maleficent. It was, I don't know if you've ever seen The Sword and the Stone. It was Madame Mim from The Sword and the Stone. Basically. It was the bad guy from Sword and the Stone. Basically. And she's like this witch lady who can transform into anything. So she was transforming into a purple dragon. But everybody was all, is it Maleficent? Oh my god, is it Maleficent? Do you know if it's Maleficent? And King Ben, which is Belle and Beast's son, because he's king now, was saying, no, it's not Maleficent. Maleficent's still a lizard. They were thinking Maleficent was sneaking out and transforming and then sneaking back in, but it really wasn't happening. And then basically, at the end of the book, they sent her back to the Isle, but while they were in the catacombs, like when they came out and they were in the dwarf mines in Ordon, they saw stuff that of their parents, like Evie, Jay, and Carlos saw stuff that was their parents' stuff. But when they sent Madame Mim back to the Isle and returned everything, then their parents went back to the Isle, went back over to the Isle, obviously, you know? And that's basically, to summarize up this book, that's basically, this book. And on the back it has Maleficent's castle and like an underwater thing, but like, it was a really, really good, this was really good too, honestly. But basically, to summarize it, they had to go back to the Isle to save themselves and they had to not, they were told when they were going to get their talismans, don't let your judgment cloud, don't let your brain cloud your judgment. Don't let evil cloud you. Don't become evil. Don't succumb to the evil ways of your talisman. And, now let's get to this third book, which is called Rise of the Isle of the Lost. And this one has, I believe that's Ursula's tentacle on the front and a pitchfork, like the Little Mermaid, and a broken ship on the back. So this book, honestly, the other two books were really good too. They were really, really good. This one was about, this one basically, they didn't go back to the Isle, none of that, but like, it talks about how Ursula and Uma were friends. And it talks about, in the beginning, it talks about how Ursula's daughter, Uma, and Maleficent's daughter, Mal, used to be friends. Until Mal slipped down the pier where they were at, almost fell in the water. But then she dumped shrimp all over Ursula's daughter, Uma, and started calling her Shrimpy, and then they stopped being friends. And Mal went to Ordon, but when Mal went to Ordon, the day that Mal went to Ordon in the first movie, I guess Ursula's daughter, was watching and she was mad. So she's like plotting on how to get her revenge. And then, like, basically they're over where Ariel lives, and where the Little Mermaid stuff, like, where they live. And they're talking to Ariel's niece, like Ariel's daughter and stuff, Ariel's niece. And Ariel's niece took her grandpa's trident and accidentally shot a hole through the barrier and all this stuff. But then it closed, but then she lost it. Like, she caused a whole storm on both sides, on Ordon and the Isle, and then she lost the trident, and it's somewhere over by the Isle, towards the Isle. So they're looking for it, and basically Fairy Godmother finds them out there trying to get a boat, because Mal, Jay, Evie, and Carlos were trying to steal a boat so that they can go find the trident. But Fairy Godmother she heard something, but then she didn't see no one. But then they started the boat, and she saw them, and she was going to send them back to the Isle because they couldn't explain what was going on. So she thought they were evil again, so she was going to send them back to the Isle of the Lost. But then, on the way to her office, her daughter Jane saw what was going on and didn't think something was right. So she called Ben, which is now Mal and Ben are dating, So Ben comes back from where he's at. He's over in Agrabah with Lonnie, which is Mulan's daughter. She's over there where Mulan is, and Agrabah, which is where Aladdin and stuff and Jasmine live. And he gets called, so he gets, transported back, and he goes to the office and asks Fairy Godmother what's going on and all this stuff. And then he tells her, they couldn't explain it to you because they were on a secret mission for me. And basically, he gets them out of trouble, and they go and they're looking for the trident. Now, everybody on the Isle is looking for the trident. Ursula's daughter Uma is really looking for the trident, because if she finds the trident, because she's working with Captain Hook's son and Gaston's son, well, if she finds the trident, she thinks if she finds it, she's gonna have a way off the island because she's gonna want say, "I'll give it back to you if you let me off the island," type deal. All this stuff, and basically they find it because there's basically a hole down there by where the trident is. There's like a little hole that has been, put in there. There's like a little hole in the dome by where the trident is. And basically during the book, during the time that they're looking for the trident, Ursula's daughter has gotten Ursula's seashell necklace, and put it back together. Completely back together. So now there's a hole in the dome, which puts magic in there. If there's a little bit of magic, you could use magic because there's a hole and you're close to Ordon. Well, her seashell is starting to work, and Mal's powers work because she's in Ordon. So they both find the trident. They're both looking at the trident. All the stuff. They're both looking at the trident. They're both trying to use their magic to get the trident. And a lot of weird stuff is happening. A lot of magical powers going on. And basically, Mal uses, like, Uma doesn't know, because Uma's Ursula's daughter, but Uma doesn't know that that's Mal in the boat on the other side, trying to get the trident. And Uma basically had the trident in her hand. Uma did. Uma had the trident in her hand. But Mal used the spell to turn back time to make sure that she could grab the trident before Uma, because if Uma got the trident, it was going to be all bad. All bad. Really bad. Like, all bad. Like, I mean, think of when they came to Ordon the first time. The villain kids came to Ordon the first time to steal Fairy Godmother's wand in the first movie. They wanted to steal Fairy Godmother's wand. Now, she turns back time and she grabs the thing. Uma starts to remember later on that she had the trident in her hand, but she doesn't know what happened. She doesn't know how it happened. She doesn't know what happened. Until she looks at her hand and sees that she grabbed Mal's glove off her hand, and then she knew it was Mal. Now, that was like the end of the book. They take back the trident and all this stuff, and they explain it to Fairy Godmother, okay? Now, going into that second movie starts off right as this book ends. Okay, they're still in Ordon. Everything's happening. They're still, all this stuff. Now, Mal is like supposed to be this lady of the court, Mal, queen. She's getting ready to be queen. She's getting ready for all this stuff. So she's using all these spells to help her read fast, spells to dye her hair blonde with purple tip, spells to cook for men, spells to, know how to act, because she's so nervous, she's so overwhelmed that her eyes start glowing green. Now she gets so that she goes back to the Isle. Okay, she ran off back to the Isle. She went back to the Isle on this bike that Ben had got her. It's like a purple bike because her whole color is purple because she's Maleficent's daughter. Mal went back to the Isle on the bike. Okay, now she gets to the Isle and she goes to the little hangout spot and all the stuff that she has to do, like that she does. She goes back to the little, hangout spot and all the stuff. And on the way there, she sees Captain Hook's son. And he says to her, "Wait till Uma hears about this." So basically, before she gets there and all that stuff, like, she gets there and she puts all her stuff down and she goes to, I don't know if you know Lady Tremaine. She's like the evil stepmom on Cinderella. She goes to her hair salon where her granddaughter does hair, where the evil stepmother's granddaughter is doing hair. And she has her do her hair purple and paint her nails black to make her look like herself. Now, while she's doing that, back in Ordon, Evie tells Ben that Mal went back to the Isle. So now Ben wants to go to the Isle to get Mal. That's just like a recipe for disaster waiting to happen. So Evie tells him, okay, but you have to take me and the boys with you. Because you don't know the Isle like we know the Isle. You don't know. You don't know what the Isle is like. You've never really been over there. So they're getting ready to go, and she goes, oh, and you can't go looking like that. You look too preppy. You cannot go looking like that. So basically, they go and they make him look evil so they can go to the Isle. They go to the Isle. They get to the Isle, and all this stuff is happening. And they're trying to talk to Mal. They're trying to get Mal to come back, but Mal doesn't want to come back. So Ben's up there talking to Mal. Then he comes back down. And they're all trying to talk now. Evie, Jay, and Carlos are trying to talk to Mal through the little microphone thing at the bottom. And Ben goes missing. Like I said, recipe for disaster. He should have never been there. Well, Ben goes missing. Well, they have to find out where he's at. But then they find out that Uma took Ben. So she goes to Ursula's fish and chip shop to meet with Uma, Ursula's daughter. They used to be friends. Mal and Uma used to be friends, but they're not anymore. So they're having a talk and they're arm wrestling and trying to win. And Uma says, well, if I win, you get me Fairy Godmother's wand. And that made her win. So basically, now she wants Fairy Godmother's wand, blah, blah, blah. Well, the boys go back to Ordon and they make a fake Fairy Godmother's wand to give to Uma. Now, while they're doing that, Mal and Evie are at Lady Trina's Curl Up and Dye shop, the hair shop, getting dye powder and putting it in gloves to make smoke bombs so that they can go rescue Ben. Okay. Now, back in Ordon, they go and Carlos and Jay go into the room and Prince Charming and Cinderella's son are in, which his name is Chad Charming, is in their room using their 3D printer to 3D print himself as an action figure. How did he get in there? He 3D printed Carlos's key the last time he was in Carlos's room. Now he makes him leave and he takes the key from them. Okay? And they start printing Fairy Godmother's wand and all this stuff. Well, basically the dog, I didn't tell you about the dog in the Carlos used to be afraid of dogs. Now he has a dog. Okay, I'm back. Well, Carlos's dog in the beginning of the movie ate a truth gummy, and now he can talk. So he blurts out, because they're not trying to tell, Cinderella's son that Ben's been captured on the Isle. He blurts out, Ben's been captured. And Carlos goes, dude. He's like, I thought you were stalling. And all this stuff. Well, Lonnie, which is Mulan's daughter, hears it and makes them take her with them back to the Isle to save Ben. So basically they go back to the Isle and they go to the ship and they're fighting for Ben. They're trying to save Ben. They're fighting for Ben. They're fighting Uma. They're, singing this song and all this stuff and they're fighting Uma. And it's like, all this stuff that they're doing. And they finally save Ben and they go to leave. Well, what do you know? Mal drops her spell book. More bad things happen. Well, basically, Uma got it. You should know. Uma got the spell book. Spelled Ben, basically. To sum it up, she got the spell book. She spelled Ben. And it's called Cotillion. It's like a dance that they do. Well, they're at Cotillion. And Mal's waiting for Ben. She comes out as Ben's lady. Well, then Ben comes out and he says, I'm sorry, Mal. And brings out Uma. And Uma's wearing his ring. But nobody knows that he's spelled yet. Nobody knows that she spelled him. That she put a spell on him. Mal's like, did you go back for her? She's like, no, he didn't have to. I swam over. I'm a good swimmer. I dove through the barrier before it closed. So basically Ben's spelled now. And they're dancing. And Ben says, I have a gift for her. I will be taking down the barrier. And everybody's like, what? No. Oh my god. No. You can't do that. What? What? No. 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 Okay? Everybody's so against that because the villains are bad. They're bad people. I always say, what if they want to be good? But they're bad people. They are. Okay? And then Ursula looks at Fairy Godmother and she tells Ben, no, I'm not doing that. And she says, do it now. And she's like, I do not answer to you. And then she's like, he is your ruler. Take the barrier down now. I will not, child. So basically, like in the beginning, like in the first movie, though, you see in the end they're fighting Maleficent, like I said, and her daughter Jane took the wand and shot a barrier, and that's how Maleficent got out. That now Ursula's daughter's trying to open the barrier so all the villains can have their freedom and revenge. But they're insisted on saying no, and then Evie's like, "Your spell book. He was spelled." So they find out that he's spelled, and Mal's going to leave. Mal just wants to leave at this point because of what's going on, because of Uma. Well, they reveal the gift that Ben made for Mal, which was a stained glass portrait of Mal. And it shows her how she always was and how she always can be. Like, basically, it shows her how she is, who she really is. Well, it basically shows, like, she tells Ben, I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to say it. Basically all that. And she kisses Ben, and the spell breaks. And basically Uma's all mad. She's like her mother. She turns into a big octopus. And Mal turns into a dragon like her mother. Basically they fight, they sing a song, and that's it. But now Mal was proposed to by Ben. Well, that's been a review. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow with another exciting video. And have a nice day. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody.